Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into something pretty interesting today.
Definitely interesting. We're talking about money. Well, medicine and money.
Right. And how they're, well, intertwined.
Yeah, really intertwined, like more than usual, even for, the pharmaceutical world.
Exactly. We're looking at Medpace Holdings, Medpace Investors, and CinRx. Three entities, all kind of connected in this.
This sort of a system you don't see every day.
So let's break it down. First up, Medpace Holdings,
Mm.
Incorporated. They're a CRO, a clinical research organization. That's CRO if you're taking notes.
And that basically means they're the ones running the clinical trials, handling the regulations, all that stuff that goes into getting a new drug or therapy approved.
The essential behind-the-scenes work to,
To make sure everything's by the book and that new treatments can actually reach patients.
and they're huge EE, like globally huge. They've acquired a bunch of companies over the years, and they're in all sorts of different areas of medicine.
Oncology, antiviral therapies, the list goes on. They're even expanding their headquarters in Cincinnati. Drop something like $150 million on that, and it's going to create tons of jobs.
Wow, 150 million. Okay, so they're serious about this.
So absolutely, they're positioning themselves as a major force in drug development. But here's where things get a little more,
A little less straightforward.
yeah, that's a good way to put it. We have to talk about Medpace Investors, LLC. This isn't just any investment group. It's primarily owned and managed by Medpace employees.
So the people working at Medpace are also investing in Medpace.
Right. It's like they're putting their money where their mouth is. But hold on, it gets even more interesting. Medpace Investors, they also fund another company, CinRx. And CinRx is all about drug development.
Okay, wait. So employees invest in their company, which invests in another company focused on making new drugs.
Exactly. And the link between all of this, a guy named Dr. August J. Troendle, he's the CEO of Medpace Holdings, Andy, the manager of Medpace Investors. He's running the show, basically.
He's wearing a couple of hats, that's for sure.
And those hats are overseeing the flow of money from Medpace Investors right into Syntax. And that's where things get really fascinating.
All right, let's talk about CinRx. What exactly is it that they DO?
Syntax, they're all about developing promising new medicines, but they do it in a very specific way, a hub-and-spoke model, they call it.
Okay, picturing a wheel. CinRx is the hub and the spokes.
The spokes are their portfolio companies, or Syncos as they call them. So instead of one big company, it's like a network of smaller companies all connected to that central Syntax hub.
Okay, that's a unique structure. But how does that translate into actually, developing drugs?
Well, there are two main ways they operate.
Two ways, okay.
Sometimes they'll build an entirely new company around a single promising drug candidate. Like they see potential and bam, a whole company forms to bring that drug to life.
So they're like a company incubator.
Exactly. But sometimes they'll partner with an existing company that may has a great idea but doesn't have the resources to develop it on their own.
I see. So CinRx swoops in with the expertise, the money, basically the support system to get things moving.
You got it. They're very strategic about it, though. They're not just throwing money at every project that comes along. They're looking for drugs and therapies that could be game changers,
So they're looking for the home runs.
Yeah, the home runs, the ones that could make a real difference in people's lives. And they have a pretty rigorous process for selecting those projects.
So, how does that process work? What makes a project a CinRx project?
It's about impact, right? They're looking for therapies that have the potential to significantly improve patients' lives. And they're using their deep operational, scientific, and clinical expertise to make those decisions.
They're not messing around. They're coming at this from all angles.
Exactly. They got to be sure because drug development is a risky business. But their whole hub-and-spoke model, it kind of helps them manage that risk.
Okay, explain that. How does having all these separate companies under the CinRx umbrella make things less risky?
Well, it's kind of like diversifying their portfolio, not putting all their eggs in one basket. So if one drug doesn't work out, they have others in the pipeline.
Oh, right, like a multiple shots on goal strategy.
Yes, exactly. And it seems to be working. One of their portfolio companies, Syncor, was recently acquired by AstraZeneca for a cool $1.9 billion.
Oh, almost $2 billion. That's huge EE. But wait, doesn't that mean?
Medpace employees just got a nice little boost, you bet.
Right, because their investment arm, Medpace Investors, is funding CinRx.
It's all connected. When CinRx wins, Medpace wins, and the employees win. It's a pretty interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. We have Medpace Holdings, this global powerhouse providing all the expertise and resources. Then you have Medpace Investors, this unique employee-driven engine fueling the whole operation. And at the center of it all, you have CinRx, the innovator, developing these potentially life-changing therapies.
It's an ecosystem. Like they're all working together, feeding into each other, and it all comes back to Dr. Troendle, the man at the helm, making sure everything's moving in the right direction.
Okay, so we've laid the groundwork, but what does this actually mean for the development of new drugs? How does this system, this collaborative ecosystem, change the game?
That's the million-dollar question, and it's a question we're going to unpack next.
We've established that this Medpace-CinRx connection is pretty unique, but how does this model actually speed up the process of getting new treatments to patients?
Okay, so think about traditional drug development. It's kind of a slow process, right? It starts in research labs, maybe at a university,
Right.
and then maybe a small biotech company picks it up, develops it a little further.
And they're constantly looking for funding.
Oh, yeah. Always scrambling for funding, dealing with all those regulations, and facing a pretty high chance of failure along the way.
It's a tough road.
It is, but this model, the Medpace CinRx model, it kind of streamlines things. It cuts out some of those steps and reduces the risk.
Okay, how so?
Well, having Medpace right there with all their expertise in running clinical trials and navigating the regulatory maze, it gives those CinRx portfolio companies a huge advantage.
So it's like having a fast track from the lab to the patient.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And remember, CinRx isn't putting all their eggs in one basket. They have that multiple shots on goal approach with all those different companies focusing on different areas of medicine.
Right.
It's like they're diversifying their portfolio to balance out the risk.
Makes sense. It's like having a safety net in a field where so many projects just, they fail.
Exactly. And that brings us back to that financial link between Medpace and CinRx.
The employee investors.
It's pretty unusual, to have employees so directly invested in the success of another company.
It is. It raises some questions for sure.
Yeah, like, is it too cozy of a relationship? Could it create conflicts of interest?
Right. Are they picking the best projects, the ones with the most scientific merit?
Or are those decisions being influenced even a little bit by their financial ties to CinRx?
That's a valid concern.
It is. Transparency and strong ethical guidelines are absolutely crucial in this kind of setup.
Definitely. You got to maintain public trust.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with something as important as people's health.
Absolutely. And this whole model, it is complex. There are so many overlapping roles and relationships.
Yeah. How do they keep it all straight?
That's a challenge for sure. Clear communication and well-defined responsibilities are key. And as this type of model becomes more common, because I think we will see more of it.
You think so?
I do. The regulators, they're going to have to figure out how to adapt the old rules. They might not fit this new way of doing things.
That's a whole other conversation.
It is. But let's get back to and their hub and spoke model. We talked about the efficiency, the potential benefits, but you also mentioned innovation.
Right.
How does this setup actually foster new ideas?
Yeah. Is there something about this structure that leads to more breakthroughs?
I think so. It's about bringing together different minds and different skill sets. You have the scientific expertise of CinRx, the operational experience of Medpace, and the financial backing of Medpace Investors. It's like
a brain trust.
Yeah, kind of. And that cross-pollination of ideas, it can spark some serious creativity.
So everyone's bringing something unique to the table.
Exactly. And the result is something bigger than the sum of its parts. And remember, CinRx is focused on those really tough areas of medicine where there's a huge need for new treatments.
They're swinging for the fences.
They are. And this model, it might just give them the edge they need to hit those home runs.
So not only could this lead to faster drug development, but also to more innovative and impactful therapies.
Potentially, yeah. It's like pushing the boundaries of what's possible, but it's still early days.
Yeah.
This is just one example, and we're just starting to see how it plays out.
It's a fascinating case study, though.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The Medpace CinRx story. It's a sign of things to come. The pharmaceutical landscape is changing, and this model could be leading the way.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. The business side, the science, the potential benefits and risks. But there's one thing I keep coming back to. What about the patients?
The people on the receiving end of all this.
Exactly. We're talking about developing treatments for cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease. These are conditions that affect millions of people.
And behind every one of those conditions is a human story, a real person facing real challenges.
That's what makes this whole field so compelling.
Yeah, it is. It's not just about business and science. It's about making a difference in the world, about giving people a chance at a longer, healthier life.
And that's where this Medpace CinRx model, it really shines. It's not just about speed and efficiency. It's about the potential to bring those life-changing therapies to patients sooner.
And sooner could mean everything.
Exactly.
Imagine a new cancer treatment becoming available years earlier than expected, or someone with a terminal illness getting more time with their loved ones.
That's powerful.
That's the power of this kind of collaboration. It's turning scientific discoveries into real-world solutions that can transform lives.
Wow. Okay. So to wrap things up, we've explored this unique relationship between Medpace Holdings, Medpace Investors, and CinRx.
Their interconnectedness, the hub-and-spoke model, and the potential impact, both good and bad.
And as we continue to follow their journey, as we hear about new discoveries and breakthroughs.
Remember the human element.
Right, the human element.
Remember the stories of resilience and hope that drive this whole industry.
It's a reminder that behind all the business deals and the scientific jargon, there are real people whose lives are being touched by the work these companies are doing.
Keep asking questions, stay curious, and never underestimate the power of innovation to change the world.
And sometimes that innovation comes from unexpected collaborations, from blurring the lines between investors, researchers, and the companies that bring those life-saving treatments to the world. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring. It really is amazing to think about the ripple effect of it all. Medpace Holdings, this global CRO, and then Medpace Investors, funded by their own employees. And CinRx, right there in the middle, zeroed in on those high-impact therapies.
Powerful stuff. And that Syncor acquisition by AstraZeneca for almost $2 billion, that's a pretty good sign that this model works.
Yeah, almost $2 billion. That says something. It shows that they can find those promising treatments, get them developed, and ultimately,
Deliver those returns, yeah.
and those returns, they don't just benefit the company, right?
Oh, no. They fuel more innovation, more breakthroughs down the line.
It's like a cycle feeding itself. But for every Syncor success story.
There are going to be projects that don't make it, for sure.
Right. What happens to those spokes, those companies under the CinRx umbrella that don't get that big win?
Well, sometimes they get shelved, Sometimes they get restructured or maybe spun off into something new. That's the thing about this hub and spoke model. It's flexible.
So it's not just about picking winners. It's about adapting when things don't go as planned.
It's about having a system that can handle those setbacks. Because drug development, it's always going to have those bumps in the road.
And this model, this Medpace-CinRx relationship, it seems like they've built in some resilience.
For sure. The diversified portfolio, Medpace's expertise, the employees invested in the success of it all.
It's almost like they anticipated those challenges.
In this business.
It makes you wonder, though, are other companies watching this? Seeing how this plays out?
Oh, I'm sure they are. They're taking notes. This could be the start of a trend, More collaborations between CROs and drug developers, maybe even more of these hub-and-spoke models popping up.
It's like they're rewriting the rules of the game.
And who knows what that could mean for the future of medicine? Faster development of new treatments, more targeted therapies, maybe even
Cures.
cures. It's an exciting time to be following this.
It is. It's a reminder that even in a field as complex as drug development, with all the science, the business, the ethical considerations,
Collaboration can make a real difference.
a shared vision.
Exactly.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive into Medpace Holdings, Medpace Investors, and CinRx.
It's been a pleasure, as always.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. And remember, keep asking questions. Stay curious. The world of medicine is constantly changing, and who knows what breakthroughs are just around the corner.